Welcome to the live stream. The San Francisco 49ers have finally made a pick. It was a long wait, but Drake Jackson out of USC, the edge pass rusher, is the pick for the 49ers at 61. They stood pat, did not trade up. Let's talk more about Drake Jackson, who he is, what kind of prospect did the 49ers get in round 2 of the 2022 NFL Draft right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock with you at BD Peacock on Twitter. Thanks for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. And thanks for checking in on this bonus episode live while the 49ers are preparing for their round 3 selections now. They've got 2 of them coming up at 93 and 105. More on that in just a minute on what the 49ers could do there in round 3. And since they did not make a move in round 2, I think going up the board might be where the 49ers are. They might be on the phone right now, is what I'm picturing going on in the 49ers draft room. And they hung out at 61. It was a long wait all Friday night, all Thursday night, most of Friday night, finally making a selection. And they props to John Lynch. They allowed the board to fall to them, and they got a prospect that I would not have batted an eye at if Drake Jackson went at the end of round 1, because he has that one trump card. He has that one thing that every team is looking for in the NFL that the 49ers covet, and that is pass rush ability. And he reminds me a lot of Harold Landry coming out of college. What was that, 4 or 5 years ago now? A guy I thought should have been a first-round pick. And I think I liked Harold Landry a little bit more than Drake Jackson, but he has that same ability, that thing that you cannot teach, which is the flexibility, the bend to be a big person with that length. He's got prototype length to be able to run the arc and get around the corner and bend under and bend around and go full speed and run under the table, as they call it, around offensive tackles to get to the quarterback. Now, you can't just run the arc all day long in the NFL. So there's some, and that's about all he did at USC. He's just like, I'm more athletic. I'm going to run around the corner and I'm going to beat a lot of guys. But he cannot do that all day long in the NFL, and he's got to be stronger. He's got to have counter moves. He's got to be able to hold up against the run. There's a lot of things you can do in the NFL that you have to do in the NFL that you can't get away with in college, right? So there is a ton of work and development the 49ers have to do with their young pass rusher, but I think they got a good one. And again, he has the thing that you can't teach, which is that flexibility at his length and the athleticism to get around the corner. And I think the 49ers benefited from a really deep edge class, because there might be years where someone the athletic caliber of Drake Jackson does not fall all the way to pick 61. And again, I was talking recently, he's like, man, Drake Jackson is that guy that I think a team could fall in love with and maybe draft at the end of round 1, but I had him sort of as a mid-round 2 guy. I thought maybe after the Kemoko Toure thing, I didn't think that the 49ers would maybe be on a defensive end at that point. But with the way the board fell and Cam Jurgens went off the board, the best center left for the 49ers, which was a nice fit. And all the wide receivers, Watson and Pickens and Sky Moore, went off the board. You started looking at it as like, man, it's either Travis Jones or it's Drake Jackson. Those are the 2 best prospects here for the 49ers. And I think they like what they have inside with the starters in Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw. So rather than Travis Jones there, I think they allowed themselves to dream about what the prospect of Drake Jackson could be with Chris Kosurik in that defense, flying off the edge with his athletic ability. And Chris Kosurik has been able to get more out of every single pass rusher that has ever played for him versus what they did previously. So if he can get that from Drake Jackson, now the 49ers have that young prospect that has all of this athletic ability to pair with Nick Bosa for the long term. Kemoko Toure, 1-year contract. And he's a nice player, and he's going to compete for those edge snaps this year. Samson Ebukam, in the last year of his contract, is going to have to compete now for his job because he's got direct a high draft pick competition right now in Drake Jackson for that job across from Nick Bosa. And I think it was really important for the 49ers to get a long-term player there that was cost-controlled on a rookie contract, because Nick Bosa is going to start making a whole bunch of money. And maybe the 49ers found that guy who can give them what they hoped they would be getting long-term from D Ford on the other side. And even if as a rookie, and most likely as a rookie, Drake Jackson, I mean, you don't want to put too much. He was picked 61. It was a late second-round pick. You don't want to put too much on him. And from what I saw from him in college, maybe you don't want to put too much and expect that he's going to go out there and be an everyday guy from down one or from day one. But he doesn't have to be. He can come out and just be a designated pass rusher. Come in on third downs. Use that athleticism and length. And let's go through the tail of the tape here with Drake Jackson and why he's so exciting. So he's 6'3". He was, I think, 250 something pounds at the combine, but went to his pro day and was like closer to 270. And I think what happened was at USC, they wanted him to be fast, come off the edge, fly off the edge, and stay light. And I think pro teams and coaching staffs and GMs talked to him and his agent and said, we want you to be big. We need every down players in the NFL. We want to prove that you can be big and strong. And he showed up at 270 pounds at his pro day, which is a really good sign. And like one of the listeners said here, where is it? I believe it. Yeah. RDC. Unlike Harold Landry, who had that flexibility and the speed coming off the edge, coming out of college, unlike Landry, Drake Jackson has the frame to put on more weight, and he's already done it. He was already up at 270 pounds at his pro day. So if he can hold that weight and be strong and still be athletic, and he still had great workout numbers, he's got 34-inch arms, and it's prototype length, big 10+ inch hands. I mean, you can see it. You can see the guys that have big hands, long arms on the field, and that's what you want pass rushers to look like. You know, Aldon Smith style, not quite. Aldon Smith is a condor. Right. He has 35+ inch hands and he looked freaky. He could tie his shoes standing up. Drake Jackson, though, when you watch him play, go put on the USC tape, watch him play, and you can see the limbs hanging down and you can see how he can use that. And he'll be much more effective as he develops more moves, too, with that arm length. So, look, the things you cannot teach is that length, that athletic ability, the flexibility at that size to turn the corner and be able to bend and dip and still run full speed and run the arc. So that's what's exciting about this pick for the 49ers with Drake Jackson and a player that could be that long-term. And I've used this so many times on the podcast and in radio interviews talking about the edge position for the 49ers, even though they have a lot of bodies at the position, they don't have that one guy across from Bosa, and they're all on the last year of their contracts. They don't have the Batman to Bosa's Rob, or the Robin to Bosa's Batman, because Bosa's Batman, and he's going to get paid like Batman very soon, probably next summer after Debo. Debo is getting signed this summer, by the way. Now they have that Robin in Drake Jackson, I think long-term, that they can develop, and he can be that edge rusher and has prototype size and athleticism to be the type of player that you want to command some respect across from Nick Bosa. And if you're going to leave him singled up and leave Bosa double teamed all day long, he has that ability to beat you and a higher level of athletic ability than even Kamoko Toure when he was a second rounder coming out of Rutgers and anybody else on the 49ers roster as an edge defender. So that's a really exciting pick for the 49ers. I like it. They went best player available. It wasn't the biggest need necessarily, but you know how John Lynch and you know how this team, since they showed up with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, have really built the whole thing from defensive line out, and they're trying to keep a strength. So I do like this pick of Drake Jackson for that reason. Okay, next, let's get into the chat a little bit and talk a little bit. It's going to be a short, quick little live episode here and get ready to be on the clock again for the 49ers. I keep looking over here to make sure the 49ers don't jump in and trade up, because about 20 picks away, a little less than 20 picks away from the 49ers coming up again at 93. And I think there is a lot of opportunity for the 49ers to move up in round 3 and get one of those targets that's still on the board, because when I was looking at best player available, that was on the defensive line, and there's still some offensive linemen, some safeties that could be available for the 49ers coming up here in round 3. I'm looking at the chat. I appreciate all you guys jumping in on the chat. And I know I can see everybody as fired up as I am about this pick for the 49ers. I like this one. A lot of folks out there asking about the Shadow 49ers. Yeah, I'm retiring the Shadow 49ers this year, so there's no official Shadow 49ers pick. But I will say this, Drake Jackson would have been probably that guy for me. And it was a really nice fit here for the 49ers. So I do love that one. And look, I've done the Shadow 49ers for long enough, like 10 years worth of Shadow 49ers, right? So I feel like I just don't need to really continue to do the Shadow 49ers. All right. So round 3. What's going on in round 3 for the 49ers? Let me make sure that while I've been doing this, okay, Travis Jones finally did go off the board at, oh my God, the Ravens. The Ravens are having a fantastic draft. And now they just sat here in round 3 at pick 76, and they just drafted Travis Jones out of UConn, who would have been the next BPA with Drake Jackson there for the 49ers in late round 2 to go with what they've already done in round 1. They got Linderbaum. They got Kyle Hamilton, who fell into their lap in the first round. So, I mean, fantastic draft so far by the Ravens. But I'm looking at who's gone so far in round 3 after that 49ers pick at the end of round 2. Luke Fortner, center from Kentucky, I think would have been definitely in consideration. We still don't know what's going on with Alex Mack. I don't know if he's going to retire. I think the 49ers need to look to a future center anyway, whether they're developing a guy to play the following year after and be the starter and just maybe compete. As everyone's pointing out, that JC Tretter's still out there, so maybe that's the play. The board didn't fall a certain way. Cam Jurgens went off the board before the 49ers picked at 61. Maybe he was their guy. There's still Dylan Parham out there, which I think is a really nice fit now. You start getting to the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I think that would be a fantastic fit for the 49ers, who's a versatile player. He's started at tackle. I think he's a center in the NFL and be a nice fit and athletic and, scheme fit and everything for the 49ers here in round 3. That could be a player that the 49ers want to target going up. Cole Strange. Cole Strange would have been one of those guys we were talking about for 61. He went all the way at 29 to the Patriots on Thursday night. That was unbelievable. And so JC Tretter is a free agent that's out there that the 49ers can sign. If they do know about an Alex Mack retirement, and we just haven't learned of that yet, there is Daniel Brunskill potential for him to move from guard to center this year, if that is the case. So there is some other options for the 49ers at center if Alex Mack retires and they don't necessarily find that guy right now. And we're starting to get to the point where maybe even if they draft a guy, you can't really expect, a third rounder, a late third rounder or later, especially a day three pick to come in and just start right away on your defensive line. So, but I would expect the 49ers to add to the offensive line here in the rest of this draft. I think there are still some wide receivers that could be on the board for the 49ers here late in round 3, aside from Dylan Parham, who would pretty much be the top guy. There's Nick Cross, who ran 4.3s. He's a really young prospect and sort of a boomer bust player out of Maryland. I could see the 49ers going there in round 3. It would be, 15, 20 picks still to go, 15 picks to go before 93. This would be the area where I could see the 49ers start to trade up. And who knows, maybe they'll go on the clock while we're live here. Not going to go for very much longer, but yeah, I would say Dylan Parham, Nick Cross would be great fits for the 49ers here, sort of need meets value in round 3. There's a number of wide receivers out there that I would like for the 49ers. And if you're looking for a wide receiver for the 49ers, look for somebody with speed. And man, I know he's small, but Calvin Austin, if the 49ers were able to get Calvin Austin here late in the 3rd round, he's only 5'7.5" and 175 pounds, but man, that dude is one of the most athletic players in this class, would be a slam dunk pick as a kick returner and someone that I think could even give you a little something outside a wide receiver, but mostly a slot guy and just a dynamic player that you could hand the ball off. And I think Kyle Shanahan could have a lot of fun with someone like Calvin Austin and really dial back those carries for Deebo Samuel, right? Because when Deebo Samuel gets paid, it doesn't help anybody for the 49ers to run him into the ground as a running back. So he should stay more at wide receiver and sprinkle in some carries. So getting a player like that can be versatile and do a lot of things for your offense would make a ton of sense. Zach Tom is another name I see here. Yeah, he's another fantastic fit. Zach Tom, you would absolutely add to that with Dylan Parham and Donovan West and I know the 49ers have gone to Arizona State and trust what's going on in that program. Donovan West, I think, would be more maybe pick 105, maybe even round 4 at center, and wouldn't be somebody I would expect to be able to jump in right away and be a starter there. But Zach Tom is a player I like even more, and I'd put him probably closer to Dylan Parham as a third round guy. And he started at left tackle. He started at center for Wake Forest, and man, he's really athletic. He's got a flat back, and he can just move. He's a really good pass protector. He handled when Wake Forest took on Florida State, he handled Jermaine Johnson, who was a first round pass rusher. And so he's just not big enough to be a tackle probably in the NFL, but go back to the position he started at early in his career in college as a center in the NFL. He's a little thin, like kind of narrow hipped guy and thin legs, and he's not very big, but he's really athletic and get out and move. And I think it'd be a nice fit and potentially starting caliber center in the NFL as well. So that's a good call. So Zach Tom is one. Dylan Parham, who the 49ers have met with, is probably high on the list. Nick Cross is another one, a safety who ran 4.3 to compete at strong safety. Danny Gray is another name, a player the 49ers have met with a lot of speed that I would probably talk about it at pick 105 or maybe into the 4th round as well. And then I really like Calvin Austin. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are Calvin Austin fans too, just because of his crazy athletic ability. Like he's if you're going to be small, you better be fast, and he is. He's quick and he's fast, and he plays bigger than his size and might be the final piece to kind of forgetting about that return game for a while, because you finally have a guy who can do that for you. So that's what I'd be looking at for the 49ers, and I wouldn't be shocked if they jump onto the clock very soon here. We're getting almost close to pick 80. The 49ers coming up in about a dozen picks. I'm going to jump off here, and I'll jump on again later after the 49ers make picks at 93 and 105, if they do stay at 93 and 105. Thanks so much for everybody for jumping on here with the live stream. Make sure you go from here over to the Locked On NFL Draft live show that's going on right now, featuring co-host Eric Crocker. That's why he's not on with me right now. And then I will talk to you guys a little bit later about what the 49ers did here in round 3. Thanks for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Talk to you soon right here, Locked On 49ers.